Okay, so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something that I think we can all relate to,
Hmm.
and that is clickbait.
Oh, yeah.
You know those headlines online that just start
Yeah.
like irresistible? You just have to click on them,
Absolutely.
even though you kind of know that you're probably going to be disappointed.
Yep.
And we've got like a whole stack of articles
I
here
do know.
about the psychology behind clickbait.
Yep.
So we're going to kind of unpack, like what's really going on?
Yeah.
Why are we so susceptible to this?
Well, and it's interesting too, because it's not just about,
Yeah.
like clever wording or anything like that. It's actually deliberate psychological strategy.
So you're saying that like it's not just about being catchy.
Right.
Like I feel like a lot of headlines, try and grab your attention.
For sure. For sure. But a well-crafted headline will pique your interest because the content itself is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But clickbait uses like psychological tricks to create a compulsion to click,
Yeah.
even if the content is disappointing.
Right.
So that's sort of the difference.
Okay, so it's like they're hacking our brains in a
Yeah,
way.
pretty much.
So let's get into some of these techniques. Like,
Oh.
how are they doing this? What are some of the common clickbait techniques?
Well, one really common tactic is using numbers or lists in headlines.
Okay.
So, you think about it, we see a list, we think, oh, this is organized, this is manageable.
Yeah.
But really, it's tapping into our desire for completion.
Okay.
Like we want to finish the list.
So it makes the content seem less daunting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It makes us feel like we're going to get a quick win.
Right.
It's like the HubSpot article even gives the example, 5 steps to create an outstanding marketing plan. Free templates.
Ooh, free templates.
Right. Yeah, that'll get
It promises like a simple path to success, and then you get a bonus.
Yeah, they're smart. I'll give them that.
Mm-hmm.
But is this always a bad thing? Like, what if the content is good?
Right. Well, that's where the line gets a little blurry.
Yeah. Because if a listicle truly delivers valuable information, then it's a win-win.
Sure.
But if it's just kind of a fluffy way to lure you in, and then the content is shallow,
Mm-hmm.
then it's definitely in clickbait territory.
So it's like the technique itself isn't inherently bad.
Right.
It depends on the intention behind it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's one technique.
Yeah.
What about those headlines that make you feel like you're about to uncover some big secret?
Oh, yeah, that's the curiosity gap.
Oh,
One of clickbait's most powerful tools.
I see.
And it's all about dangling a piece of information just out of reach, making you crave the answer.
Oh, okay.
So think about a headline like, "The March Madness Effect on Company Culture, Win or Bust."
Okay.
Most people know what March Madness is.
It's a basketball tournament.
Right, it's a basketball tournament, but how does that connect to company culture?
Yeah, that would make me click. I want to know.
Right, and it's like they're setting up a puzzle and you need that missing piece,
Totally.
and then that win or bust part
Yeah.
adds a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Like, there are serious consequences if you don't understand this.
Right.
It makes you wonder, like, what am I missing out on if I don't click on this?
Oh, they really know how to push our buttons.
They do.
It's like almost insidious. Okay, so that's the curiosity gap.
Yeah.
What about like those headlines that make you feel like you have to know right now?
Oh, yeah. Creating a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
That's another big one.
Okay.
It's like breaking news or, you won't believe what happened next.
Yeah.
They prey on FOMO, that fear of missing out.
Right.
We feel like we need to know now before it's too late.
It's like they're playing on our anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like that headline from the article, "You won't believe how you can double your income in X days."
Oh, yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want to click on that?
Exactly. It taps into our desire for quick solutions and self-improvement.
Of course.
Right? Or like the secret to understanding your sleeping habits.
Yes.
Makes you think there's an easy answer to a complex problem.
Right.
Which we all want.
We do. So they're really like exploiting our deepest desires and insecurities to get us to click.
Absolutely.
But let's be real, sometimes we do fall for it.
We do.
Okay, what about those headlines that are just like straight up outrageous? Like, are they just trying to shock us into clicking?
Oh, yeah. Controversial headlines are a huge one.
Okay.
They use these dramatic, exaggerated claims, to stop us in our tracks.
Okay.
Like X things you won't believe about, or X beauty secrets that'll change your life. It's all about triggering a strong emotional response.
It's interesting because they're not even really being specific.
Right.
It's like they're leaving it really open-ended so that you just fill in the blanks.
Exactly.
With your own assumptions.
Yeah, they rely on our imaginations to create the intrigue.
That's so interesting.
And then often, these techniques are combined with emotive language and imagery.
Oh, sure.
So you've got words like shocking, amazing, heartbreaking.
Yeah,
And then you couple that with a visual. That's really attention-grabbing and emotionally charged.
totally.
It's like the recipe for clickbait.
Yeah, they're really throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
They are.
And you know, sometimes it works.
It does. It does.
So it's not hard to see why clickbait is so prevalent online.
It's everywhere.
It really is.
And that's why it's so important to understand the psychology behind it. Because once you're aware of the techniques, you can start to recognize them and make more informed choices about what you click on.
Knowledge is power.
Exactly.
So just being aware of these tactics is the first step to avoiding the clickbait trap.
Absolutely.
But I'm curious, knowing how these techniques work, do they ever, like, make you want to click?
Oh, of course.
Really?
Yeah, we're all susceptible to these triggers.
Yeah.
The key is to recognize when they're being used and to pause before you react.
So, like, being mindful instead of just clicking on autopilot?
Exactly.
It's like hitting the pause button on your impulses?
Yes.
Before you just go with it. But what about the people creating this content? Like, are they aware of the manipulation they're using?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that leads us to the ethical considerations of clickbait.
Okay.
Because, do creators have a responsibility to be transparent about their techniques?
Interesting.
Where do we draw the line between a clever marketing strategy
Right.
and outright manipulation?
Ooh, good question.
And we'll dive into all of that right after this.
Yeah.
So, we've been talking about all the psychology behind clickbait, how it kind of preys on our emotions and our desires and all that.
Right.
But, like, where does that leave us?
Yeah.
As content consumers,
Yeah.
how do we actually navigate this world?
Yeah, it feels like a minefield out there.
It is.
Like every headline, you're like, is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad?
Right.
So I'm ready to learn like some self-defense techniques
I like that.
for combating clickbait.
Okay, so think of it as developing your clickbait radar. And the first step is really just recognizing those tactics that we talked about. The numbers, the curiosity gaps, the urgency.
Yeah.
And once you start to see those patterns,
Yeah.
you can start to kind of question
Yeah.
the intention behind them.
So instead of just like blindly clicking,
Right.
we take a beat and we ask ourselves, is this headline trying to manipulate me?
Yes.
Or is it genuinely interesting?
Exactly.
Okay.
And another good strategy is to really pay attention to the source.
Oh, yeah.
Is this a reputable news site, a respected blog,
Right.
or is this like some random website?
Yeah, if the website looks sketchy,
Yeah.
chances are the content is too.
Right. It's like judging a book by its cover.
Exactly.
Sometimes those first impressions are accurate.
They really are.
And then even once you've clicked, pay
Yeah.
attention to the content itself.
Right.
Like, does it actually deliver
Yeah.
what the headline promised?
Mhm.
Or is it just like full of fluff and distractions and,
Or in ads.
and ads?
Yeah. I hate that.
So, it's like you order a gourmet burger and all you get is a dry patty on a stale bun.
Yes, exactly.
Total letdown.
Such a bummer.
And that's really a key indicator of clickbait, is
Yeah.
that sense of disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were promised something amazing and the reality just falls short.
So we're looking for that bait and switch.
Yeah.
Like they hook you with the headline and then it's just like ads or irrelevant content.
Yeah, often that is the goal.
Uh,
Clicks equal revenue
Right.
in the online world.
mm-hmm.
But ethical content creators are focused on providing value,
Sure.
not just generating traffic.
So we're trying to distinguish between
Right.
content that wants to inform
Yeah,
and content that just wants to exploit
exactly.
our curiosity.
Yes.
But is all clickbait bad?
That's a good question.
Like sometimes a headline will genuinely make me curious about something that I
Yeah.
might not have otherwise even thought about.
Yeah, and that's what makes this whole conversation so complex.
Right.
Because there's definitely a spectrum of clickbait.
Okay.
On one end, you have like the blatant manipulation,
Yeah.
misleading headlines that are just designed to deceive.
Mm.
And that's the kind that really damages trust
Right.
and ultimately hurts everyone.
Okay, so that's the clickbait we want to avoid.
Yes, definitely.
What about the other end of the spectrum?
So on the other end, you have content that uses, some of these same techniques.
Okay.
Like the curiosity gaps, the strong language.
Yeah.
But they do it with integrity.
Okay.
So it's about piquing your interest in a way that actually leads to valuable information or like a thought-provoking experience.
So it's like a chef using spices.
Okay.
Like a little pinch can enhance the dish.
Yes.
But too much can ruin it.
Exactly. It's all about balance.
Right.
And as content consumers, we can learn to discern the difference.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, Did this headline make me feel tricked or manipulated?
Mm.
Or did it spark genuine curiosity that was actually satisfied by the content?
So it's like the difference between feeling cheated and feeling intrigued.
Yes, exactly.
But let's be real, like in this fast-paced online world, it's so easy to just get caught up
Yeah.
in the whirlwind and click without thinking.
Right.
So what are some practical tips for like
Yeah.
slowing down and being more mindful?
Well, one really simple technique, but it's surprisingly powerful,
Right.
is to just pause before you click.
Okay.
Like literally take a breath, read the headline carefully, consider the source.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself get swept away by that urgency or that emotional language.
It's like taking that extra second to look both ways before you cross the street.
Exactly. It's a simple action that
Right.
can prevent a lot of trouble.
So true.
And another good tip is to diversify your information diet.
Okay.
If you're only getting information from the same sources, you're more likely to be exposed to the same kind of clickbait patterns.
So like expand your horizons a little bit.
Yes. Branch out, explore different perspectives.
Yeah.
Challenge your own assumptions. You'll be surprised at the variety and the quality of content that you discover when you break out of those patterns.
I like that it's like cross-training for your brain. Keep those clickbait detecting muscles strong.
Exactly.
But what about like the content creators?
Yeah.
They're under so much pressure to get those clicks.
They are.
And engagement.
Right. It's a real dilemma.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in that numbers game.
Yeah.
But ethical content creators need to remember that true success isn't just measured in clicks.
So it's not just about attracting eyeballs. It's about building genuine connections.
Exactly. It's about establishing a relationship built on authenticity, trust, and mutual respect. And that's something that clickbait can never achieve.
So how do we as content creators
Yeah.
navigate this tension?
That's the question.
Like how do we create engaging content without resorting to these manipulative tactics?
Well, and that's a conversation that I think we need to have.
Yeah.
And we'll delve into that right after this.
Okay.
We'll explore all the ethical considerations for content creators in this crazy clickbait-driven world.
I'm ready. So we talked about clickbait from like both sides,
Yeah.
The consumer who's just bombarded with these tactics,
Right.
and then the content creator who,
Feels the pressure.
feels the pressure to use them.
Yeah.
So how do we as creators strike that balance?
It's a tough one.
Like, how do we create content that's engaging,
Right.
but also ethical?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Right.
For anyone who's creating content online these days,
Yeah.
it's really about shifting our mindset,
Okay.
from chasing clicks to building those genuine connections.
So not just getting people to click, but getting them to actually like stay engaged.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Clickbait is like a one-night stand. It's all about that initial attraction,
Right.
but there's no lasting substance.
Okay.
Ethical content, on the other hand, is like building a long-term relationship.
I see.
It's about trust and respect and delivering on your promises.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So how do we actually build that kind of relationship with our audience?
Well, it starts with authenticity.
Okay.
Be yourself, let your passion shine through, and really focus on creating content that provides value to your audience.
That sounds simple, but I imagine it's a lot harder than it seems.
It does take effort,
Yeah.
but people can spot a fake a mile away,
Yeah.
when you're genuine.
Yeah.
People connect with that. They're more likely to trust. Engage with your content, become loyal followers.
So it's about playing the long game.
Exactly. Building that trust over time.
Yeah.
And it's about focusing on quality over quantity.
Okay.
Instead of just churning out a ton of clickbaity content just to get those clicks.
Right.
Really invest your time and energy in crafting something truly valuable.
So less about churning and more about crafting, like a piece of art or music.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's about putting care and intention into everything you create.
Yeah.
From the headline to the final sentence.
But what about those catchy headlines?
Yeah.
Are there ways to make them intriguing without being manipulative?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can still use techniques like the curiosity gap,
Okay.
but make sure you're genuinely delivering on the promise that you're making in that headline.
Okay.
So instead of resorting to exaggeration or shock value,
Right.
really focus on piquing curiosity in a way that leads to valuable insights or a satisfying reading experience.
So it's like a movie trailer.
Ooh, I like that.
It gives you a glimpse of what the story's about,
Yeah.
but it doesn't spoil the whole thing.
Right. It makes you want to see more.
Exactly.
And just like a good movie trailer, A well-crafted headline should leave your audience wanting more, not feeling cheated.
Right. So it's not about abandoning those techniques
Right.
altogether. It's just about using them responsibly.
Exactly,
Critically.
and ethically. And remember, you don't have to do this alone.
Oh, right.
There are tons of resources available to help you learn how to write effective, engaging headlines
Yeah.
without resorting to those clickbait tactics.
So it's about honing our skills
Absolutely.
as content creators and, always striving to do better.
Yeah, always be learning.
Always be learning. But what about the pressure to perform?
It's real.
Like everyone's so obsessed with metrics and numbers
They are.
and, clicks, likes, shares.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in that.
How do we resist that temptation to just go for the clickbait when it seems like everyone else is doing it?
Yeah, that's a real struggle, especially, I think, in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that those metrics don't tell the whole story.
Right.
A few thousand engaged, loyal followers
Yeah.
are worth more than millions of fleeting clicks
Oh, wow.
from people who will never come back.
So quality over quantity, even with our audience.
Absolutely focus on building a community
Yeah.
of people who genuinely connect with your content, and the rest will follow.
This has been like a really insightful conversation.
It has.
I feel like I've learned a lot about the psychology
Too.
of clickbait and also, the importance of creating content with integrity.
Mm-hmm.
So what's like one thing that you hope our listeners take away from this deep dive?
I hope they come away feeling empowered
Okay.
to make more mindful choices about the content that they consume, and also empowered to create content that makes a positive impact on the world.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up
Oh,
this
yeah.
deep dive into the world of clickbait.
Sounds good.
But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay.
The power to change this online landscape is really in our hands. As content creators, we have a responsibility to be ethical and authentic. And as consumers, we have a responsibility to be discerning and critical.
I agree.
And together, we can create a more mindful,
Yes.
a more meaningful, and a less clickbaity
Definitely.
online experience for everyone.
Let's do it. Let's make the internet a better place.
Yes, one click at a time.
One click at a time.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.